Good evening. Good evening. Hello, my name is Aisha Rosenborough. I'm a licensed graduate professional counselor, and I am the founder of Hope Esperanza Restoration and Empowerment Center. And I am a founding member of First Generation World Changers. I'm so excited to be here today. Thanks for having me.
Good evening, everyone. This is Riantel Smith. I am a licensed social worker, and I am here. And happy to be talking about this very important topic with the First Gen family.
Good evening, everyone. This is Precious Cunningham here. I have my master's in social work, Howard alum, first generation world changer, and I am very passionate about this topic that we will be discussing today. Glad to be here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Vivian Oshakoya. I am a first generation World Changers founding member. I am a stay-at-home mom of 2 girls, and I am also a health and wellness coach with Better Up Life, partnering with Herbalife Nutrition.
All right. Peace and blessings, family. That leaves me. My name is Ashley Epiphany. I am a certified educator. I am also a holistic wellness coach, and I teach you how to transform your life as you create balance between your body, your mind, and your soul. And I'm so just excited to be here with my sisters on today to moderate this discussion that we will talk with you all about on tonight, or this discussion that we will have on tonight, where we talk about how to deal with toxic family members. So we're going to get right into it because I know you all are excited. This is an amazing topic, and I know we are just excited to share with you all. So we're going to get right into the presentation. So the first thing we want to do is to just help put this into perspective for you. How do we deal with toxic family members? Okay, so the first question that I want to open up to all of the ladies on the floor is, what is a toxic family member? What would you consider a toxic family member?
This is a really, really good question. I consider a toxic family to be a family dynamic that prohibits growth and acceptance, and that, of course, withholds affirmation and confirmation when it comes to you excelling into being a better person.
I would define a toxic family as a family that has a cycle of dysfunctional behavior. Maybe there is a pattern of abuse, neglect, traumatic experiences. There could also be behavior such as control, blaming, criticizing, backbiting, gossiping, dismissiveness, belittlement. And so when you are around toxic family members, you begin to feel negative emotions. And that's what causes that's what caused the family dyad to be toxic, because of the emotions that you feel, the intense emotion that you feel, whether it be sadness, anger, disappointment. If you're feeling all these negative emotions when you're around certain family members, that is called a level of toxicity. And so that would define a family that is experiencing dysregulation in how they operate.
You ladies said it all.
I agree. The same thing. Anything that, in a family dynamic that causes the negative energy and the negative feelings. Riantel basically said it all. It's all toxic.
Yes. We're starting off hitting the head on the nail, heavy hitting. And I think it's good that we shed light on this, because then we'll be able to be more effective in what it is that we give you as solutions on how to deal with the toxic family. So you can go to the next slide, Viv. All right, so the next question is, are you a product of a toxic family? If so, when did you come into the realization that your family was toxic? Ladies, take it away.
So I'll
go first. Oh,
okay, go ahead. Look, we're so eager. Go ahead, Ree.
Yes, I am a product of a toxic family. Unfortunately, I experienced parental domestic violence growing up. So there was a lot of violence in my childhood home. There was also a lot of unspoken, unaddressed mental health issues in my family growing up. And so with those unaddressed issues came a lot of toxic behavior. And some of that behavior was learned on my part, just communication issues, how I should interact with the world around me. I came to realization that my family was toxic in my 40s. I don't know if I was just in denial or just had a closed mind to the issues that I was experiencing and that was existing in my family. But it wasn't until I was 40 years old and I went to therapy and I really began to talk about some of my experiences to know that they were not normal. When you grow up in dysfunction or a toxic environment, it becomes normal. So everything else around you is like, well, what is this? But that will be those who did not experience that behavior, who look upon your family or look upon you in a certain way and be like, wait a minute, that is not normal. So it wasn't until I got in my older age that I was emotionally and mentally mature enough to face the fact that I grew up in a toxic family environment.
Yes, Ree, I can definitely relate. I too am a product of a toxic family, and I knew early on that things were wrong, because of all of the things that Ree described about the negative energy was so thick, and just experiencing all of these things that it was just a lot that happened in my childhood, not to not only towards me, but towards my brothers. And I felt myself having to defend my brothers a lot. There were times where I was upset with my mom because, she didn't defend us. There was a time where an incident happened where I blamed myself because I didn't dial 911. Feelings of just being insecure. I remember almost feeling like it was okay for me to die because I was threatened. My life was threatened. So I started thinking like, wow, okay, I could die. If my father could say that to me or threaten me, then, hey, it is what it is. And I didn't feel good inside. I didn't feel good. I felt inferior. I felt defeated. With the name calling, I didn't feel great. I didn't feel like amazing. I felt like beat up and just like I couldn't do no right. So with all of these feelings, I knew early on that this is not okay. And all of that pushed me to begin to take an interest in studying psychology and wanting to know how the brain works, how the mind works, mental illness, all of that, why people do the things that they do. I even started diagnosing myself, my family members, because I just wanted to have an understanding of why, um, why things happen. I even studied Black psychology and really looking at, the things that we went through, how slavery affects, the family unit and all of these things. But for me to realize that as a young age, I feel like it saved me because it helped me to want to change things early on. I didn't have the courage till later on in life to really, put my foot down and to really break these generational curses and behaviors, and not bring them into my family life. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so awesome. I'm gonna jump in here because I would definitely say that I am a product of a toxic family. And I would say that I knew from a very young age. I've always been a prolific thinker, a deep feeler. I knew from a very young age that a lot of what I was going through was just not right and it was just not acceptable. I just didn't have the language for it. And so a lot of my journeys in life have have been me trying to find the language to express or to really articulate what was wrong, and what I needed to be right.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to all three of you ladies, knowing at a very young age that something was wrong. Growing up, I too was very intuitive, and I kind of had a feeling like something was wrong, and I'm extremely different from everyone else. So I realized that I thought different, I see things different. So things that everybody was blowing up, I was looking at like, I don't think it's that serious, or it's not that bad. Let's hurry up and find a solution. And while they were like flying off the handles, ready to fight, I'm like, it's really not that serious, but okay, I mean, we can fight. Okay, let's get it, But the reality was I wasn't seeing things from their perspective. So as I got older, I started to realize that, okay, I'm crafted a little different. I didn't know where exactly, where did I fit? I didn't know why I felt different. And I started thinking maybe something's wrong with me. But then when I went to school, I went to college, and I met other people like me who actually had compassion for others, who loved people, who just genuinely like cared. And then the more I learned about, of course, myself, even our history, I began developing a greater passion. And I realized that, okay, my family is just toxic, right? And then in these friendships, I began to realize that it wasn't a competition. They weren't jealous of like me, the way I thought. It wasn't like I'm always trying to prove that I'm not this good person. I found myself learning to just embrace that I was very different. It was definitely a journey, but I would say that I realized that my family was toxic when I started college, and when I began to expose myself to a different type of people. That definitely changed my life. And also like education always changes the way you view yourself and even the world around you. It kind of gives you the name for family. Like, I'm sure toxicity wasn't a word for us back then. Like when I grew up, DC, the DMV area. So toxic was not a word when I was growing up. But now that we are older, we begin to label things. And I'm realizing that, yeah, that's toxic. So yeah, that's my spiel.
That was actually what I was going to say. Yes, I'm a product of a toxic family as well. But what I would have called it before knowing was just dysfunction. And I believe a lot of families have dysfunction. And I was like, I got dysfunction in my family. But to realize that actually I was a product, I would say it was fairly recent. Within these, I'd say like the last year or two, just learning about personal development and bettering myself and trying to break generational curses and generational, chains and things like that. I realize it's very difficult, and a lot of it is a result of my family history and what I was, what I've learned and need to unlearn. And so, seeing, just being that, feeling unworthiness, that's a big one. Self-doubt, those limiting beliefs, just because of, feeling invalidated growing up. Those are major. And seeing, a dynamic between parents that was never, not so much positive, a lot of negativity. And so, but I always knew, I've always been that person that's, I don't follow culture, I don't follow family, this is the way we do things and this is how it is in our family. I've never been that type of person to just go along with it. And so I knew it was always something wrong, but I didn't know that I was actually still learning, traits and other beliefs and things of that nature.
Yes, this is this is all such powerful information. And as you go to the next slide, Viv, what I want to highlight that you said is that in the process of this, there's a lot of unlearning and relearning that we have to do. And I'm going to make up a word here, and it's because of a lot of undealt withness in our families. You know, a lot of people didn't have the training or the language or the emotional support, you know, and so it being in the health and wellness and the education and the therapeutic field or the clinician field, we see a different aspect. And so we learn a different level of grace.
Yeah, and I want to say this before we go to the next question. A lot of toxic behaviors have been normalized in certain populations.
Absolutely.
So it was normal for me to see a father abandon his children, a mom being forced to raise her children alone, a mom, of course, using drugs in the house with her kids, drugs being sold around the children, violence, cursing, like always demeaning, family members is always being that was normalized in our community, so because of that, it will be hard to, you like literally have to step outside the dynamics of your family and even your community to see that, okay, this behavior is wrong and it's toxic. So yeah, I just wanted to add that piece.
No, that's good, because I would even add, so after the dynamics of family and community, I would say that you would have to step out of the dynamics of who you believed yourself to be so that you could embrace a different perspective as well.
If and you so don't say it, say it.
And so with that, we want to say, I think it went back a slide, but I know it said, how did coming from a toxic family impact your decision-making skills? Has coming from a toxic family impacted your decision-making skills? And if so, how? And I'll start this off. I will definitely be very transparent and say that I have high functioning anxiety. Like anytime that I have to make a decision, it is just such a process. And I have to learn to create that safety within myself and just keep reminding myself that, like, this is not that, what I am now, where I am now is not where I was before. I am not around the people that I was around before. I'm not making even the same decisions that I was as that person anymore. It also has embedded a lot of fear in me. And so I doubt myself a lot, and I always work to be perfect. Even though I know it'll never happen, that's like my number one goal. And if I can't be perfect, I become very dismissive and very distant because I feel intimidated by things that I feel like I don't have a hold or a handle over. So
I can definitely second that anxiety piece, because anxiety has definitely plays a big role in my decision making because of the constant back and forth toiling. Like I remember growing up, when I made a decision, it was always, why would you do that? That was so stupid, like always having to combat with what everyone else thought about my decisions, but never really realizing that my life and my process was mine and no one else ever understood it. Just getting to a place where making decisions, it became second nature. Like, yes, there are times like when making major decisions, I'm like kind of reluctant, but I'm definitely at a place now where I'm realizing that my process is so different, and no one in my family, no one around me can really call the shots or say, okay, you should do this or you should do that, because this is my life and I'm really guided, of course, by my intuition and God, my Father, that helps me to make my decisions. So as long as I'm okay with it and God is definitely guiding me, I've definitely learned to just do that that way. But I can definitely relate to that anxiety piece, because prior to, and even now, sometimes when it comes to big life altering decisions, it is definitely very, very, very hard. And then stepping outside of the norm, doing things that, of course, people don't do in my community or people don't do in my family. Being a first generationer is very hard, going outside of the norm becomes very difficult. So yes, coming from a toxic family has impacted my decision making, and it's definitely because it gave me a certain level of uncertainty when it comes to certain making certain decisions?
I'm gonna have to chime in. I have the decision making is a process, but one thing about me when it comes to making decisions is also that I often consider myself last when it comes to decisions. When I need to make a decision, I want to think about and consider everyone else besides myself. Like, what are you doing? What's your plans? Don't worry about me. I'll work around you, basically. And a lot of times, I don't know, I just feel safer that way, just making sure that, because I'm trying to avoid friction. I'm trying to avoid any issues where, things aren't lining up and then someone is upset. I've always been that type to avoid confrontation and problems and friction. And so I'm always considering everyone else whenever it comes to making any type of decision. So a lot of times I don't make any decisions for myself, because if it doesn't, if it doesn't line up with everyone else around me, my children, my husband, my parents, extended family and friends, then I'm often putting myself on the back burner. And so that's one of definitely a major impact on decisions that has come from my own toxic background.
I was just about to ask you, is that like a cultural thing? Is that something that's been embedded in you from culture, or is it just, of course, your family experience?
No, it's literally just like that word process. I'm slow to decisions because I don't want to, it's not cultural. I know it's not cultural because I'm definitely the type, I need communication, and I need to know all the details so that way I can really make a sound decision. So it's really just for my safety and, avoiding any friction.
Yeah, I can 100% agree with that. That confrontation, I can't handle the confrontation because I am very impulsive, or well, I was very impulsive. I'm working on it. And I would definitely say one last impact coming from a toxic, okay, got you. I would definitely say that one last impact that coming from a toxic family has had on me is that I have had a great challenge developing healthy relationships. And it's because of my lack of trust that somebody will come into my life and be good to me. And that's a real thing. So I want to pass to Mantle so that she can jump in and give her answer.
I would say, coming from a family where there was a lot of parentification, my decision-making skills were affected in an adverse way, whereas I, at a young age, had to make decisions for everyone in my household, which not only impacted the way that I make decisions, but it also caused a lot of anxiety because it's just a lot of pressure at a young age to have to make adult decisions. And so I was pressured with that and not being able to just be a child, always being in the role of an adult, handling adult responsibilities. So now as an adult, because I have gone through a high level of stress in my formative years, as an adult, I get a great deal of anxiety because I feel like everyone is relying on me to make the best decision possible. Otherwise, everyone will suffer if I don't. So that is my dilemma. And I had to learn that I can't carry the weight of everyone else on my shoulders, and that I am not the only resource when people are in crisis, and that everyone has the capacity to make their own decisions. So I had to break that codependency with my family. And so the codependency was more so of them depending on me and me feeling like I need to rescue them. So now my decision-making capacity has expanded, whereas I'm not thinking about others, I'm more so thinking about myself and how I'm going to be impacted in the decision that is being made. I'm very considerate of others, but I don't make people the focal point of the decisions that I am making. Especially if anyway, it's going to have a direct impact on me. Before, I had to weigh what other people's needs were, what their reactions would be, how they would be impacted before I made a decision for myself. And that overall had minimized my level of self-happiness, because I could not make a decision without feeling like there was judgmental eyes on me, or that I would be criticized, because everyone else would ultimately suffer from a decision that I made, notwithstanding that I am human, I get overwhelmed, I have anxiety, and that such decisions should not have to be made by solely one person.
Wow, that's deep.
Yeah, so that's what I went through in my family.
I can relate to everything that all you ladies mentioned. Being a product of a toxic family definitely impacted my decision making. I made a lot of poor decisions, a lot of them. And a lot of them were made because I didn't care. And I was also hurt, I was also hurt. And I continued to hurt myself by the poor decisions that I was making. I had to live with these poor decisions that I made. And I had to really dig deep and really get myself together, knowing the why, and now figuring out, how can I turn things around? How can I make things better? How can I choose wisely? How can I make sound decisions now, as I grew, as I matured, as I called on God to really change me and do some work within me to really pull me from this darkness, that I'm in, that wasn't helping me, but just sending me down a deeper hole, going through, the things that I went through. I beat myself up a lot for I'm trying not to be so, specific. I'm really trying to be general with my thoughts here, but definitely it has a huge impact. It's a lot of little girls out here that are just wild, just off the handle, no care for nothing because of the things that they went through in their childhood, running from this pain, this hurt, and just killing themselves slowly by the decisions that they're making.
Come on, sis, you better take us to church, man. Like, pray, right? So, Viv, as you go on to the next slide, and we can stay on this topic if you like, but as you go on to the next slide, one thing I want to say is the thing that I love about being in education is that children are a different type of breed, right? And I work with middle school children, so y'all continue to pray my strength in the Lord Jesus. But whenever I see a child, or whenever I have an exchange with a child, I never listen for the conversation. I always look at the behavior. And then when I view the behavior, I'm always curious as to what the story is. And so that is just, now that I've learned this dynamic and this aspect of life, that's always my perspective whenever I'm approaching a child that I work with, but also when I talk to adults. When I look at adults, I just say, you know what, I'm really looking at the behavior. I'm listening for the conversation behind the conversation. Like, what do we really need to get to kind of help you grow and learn in this area? And I guess this is good because this walks us into our next question, which is, what are some of the lessons you have learned from this experience? So what I've learned, honestly, I have learned grace and compassion, and I've learned to, when I want to be upset at someone for something, I try and put myself in their shoes, and I try and look at things from a different perspective. And my approach is just totally different. And I try to really break down the barriers of them being defensive so that they can have safer spaces to just be, breathe, and speak.
Yeah, I was speaking to Tiara earlier and said she's not here, but I definitely want to give her answer because she gave a really, really good answer, and then I'll definitely give mine. But Tiara was saying she's learned the importance of setting boundaries. Because a lot of times, a lot of things that we experience kind of causes us to have loose boundaries. But as we grow older, we realize that boundaries are very important, and it helps us to, of course, develop a safety net for ourselves and even for our new family that has come into this toxic family experience. But then I also, me personally, I have definitely learned from my experience in a toxic family. I have definitely learned how to, I guess, move past that toxicity and learned how to develop my own lane, right? I learned how to trust my intuition, and I learned how to stand up in my truth and be myself outside of what I was taught. And I think me and Tara talked a little bit about this too. Stepping outside of what we were taught and stepping into a new frame of mind, a new area of reference, like finding your lane, finding your tribe, finding your people, and just building family and community that way, learning to identify your folks and learning to identify who's not your folks, right? Learning what to accept in life and learning what not to accept, learning what feels good and learning what does not feel good. You know, just being true and honest with yourself and who you are. It's something about experiencing the worst that helps to shine light on what is actually good, right? So in experiencing having those worst situations or having those very difficult relationships to manage, it kind of helped me to be a better friend for my friends. It kind of helped me to be a better mom for my children, even though my mom was a phenomenal mom, but just an aunt, being a great aunt to my nieces and nephews, showing up, you know what I mean, for my folks. I just feel like this experience has taught me what not to be, right? It helped me to identify when something is wrong as well. So yeah, it's a lot of life lessons in this experience, I believe.
Absolutely, Aisha. I definitely learned a lot in the adverse. I learned what not to be, exactly how you phrased it. I learned that, you know, your past doesn't dictate your future. I learned that I'm actually stronger than I thought. I learned that I do have what it takes to be somebody, you know. I also learned how to teach people how to treat me. I've learned that saying no is okay. You know, I've learned to love people from a distance. I don't know if I mentioned that already. I've learned to not just set my boundaries, but enforce them. You know what I mean? Don't just make the boundaries and then don't, you know, stick to them, you know, to make strong, sturdy boundaries and stick by them, and don't feel bad for sticking to them and having to explain to people what your boundaries are, you know, even though it could be annoying, you know, no, this is what I won't allow. And I also learned that when you do create those boundaries, don't allow people to push them down. Don't give people a space to hurt you again. You know what I mean? You can forgive, but don't allow them to hurt you again. Don't go back to that pain, you know, that hurt, and give them like an open door to do the same thing that they've been doing for years to you. So that's what I've learned.
And this reminds me of Maya Angelou's Maya Angelou's phrase, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. And when you believe them, it definitely changes the way you respond to their behavior. So yeah, I can definitely feel that.
So speaking as someone who, yes, I've learned lessons, actually a lot of what you ladies have mentioned, but as someone who is still learning how to overcome, I have learned that it's not always something that you can do on your own. Like, recognizing. So what I've learned is recognizing when help is needed, professional help, therapy, counseling.
Speak on it.
Definitely learned that. So yeah, that's what I want to add to that too.
Yeah. And I also want to add this piece. I forgot to mention it when I was talking. I also learned how to communicate. I realized a lot of the times why I was so physical and so aggressive was because I never really knew how to communicate my frustrations, my anger. So I would, of course, lash out, fight, be mean, nasty. And through this experience, I feel like I learned the power of words. I learned the importance of communicating. I don't know how many of my sisters communicated with violence. And then later on, like, learned how to communicate, learned that you can actually express how you feel without being physical, but learning to identify the words. Learning to be vulnerable with others and even yourself by explaining how you feel, because being able to talk about your emotions is a very vulnerable feeling, right? Sharing a part of yourself can be very vulnerable. So just learning how to be vulnerable and what to do with that vulnerability was major for me. So I feel like in this experience, I learned how to be vulnerable with people who weren't even willing or didn't even want to hear my vulnerability, but more so learning to be vulnerable for myself. That was the hardest thing, knowing that I would be rejected, but still put myself in those positions. Well, first build myself up enough to put myself in those positions where I can be vulnerable and not have a breakdown, right? Learning how to process my emotions without being hurt emotionally. So I think, Precious, you had mentioned something like, I don't want to put myself in a position to be hurt again. Sometimes you have to put yourself in a position by, of course, stating your truths and then backing out. You know what I mean? Saying,
Right.
this is what it is for me, and then backing out of it, and allowing them to process and do whatever it is that they do, but knowing that you're okay because you said your piece. That right there is tough, but it's definitely a place you definitely want to get to.
Absolutely.
Woo, I hope y'all are starting to understand how phenomenal the first generational world changers are. Listen, we are a wealth of experience. We are a wealth of process. We are a wealth of love that we just are so ready to give out to you all. So we're going to move on to the next question, which is it possible to continue playing an active role in a toxic family after doing the work to be a better person? If so, what would that look like?
Ooh, child. This question is so loaded because it's a two-part. I think it's important that you stay in tune with your intuitive self. So if you know that you can't handle this, I would definitely say it's a no. But if you feel like you can handle this and you know how to be present and not take their behavior so personally, you know how to, hey, show up, be there, but then also detach when needed. You're able to set very healthy boundaries. You're able to identify when something, hey, this about to go left, let me roll out, without it being like one of them tug of wars. I don't want them to think this about me. I don't want them. Just first knowing who you are is major. So when you go in them situations or you're in them areas and they're trying to treat you like they treated you back then, you're able to say, no, I'm not that person anymore, and move on. Like being able to really state your truths is major. And just, I guess, just being you. So it's a possibility that you can be active, but then it's also a possibility that you can't. You know your family and you know your limits. So knowing your limits, setting your boundaries, and just making sure people adhere to your boundaries is major.
Yeah, it's possible. But for me, it definitely, unfortunately, it isn't possible. Only because, sometimes it could be a trigger for me to, be around toxic family members. And though I'm still, working on me, still healing and all of that, I'm not to the point where the triggers don't still have some type of effect on me. You know what I mean? So for me, it's safer and it's healthier and it's more peaceful to just keep it distant, but still show love every now, be creative with how you're communicating. Oh, checking in, and then you don't have to hear from me for a while to check in, but I do hope that I can get to a point to where I'm no longer triggered, where I can be around, toxic family members, and it won't affect me in no way at all. That's the goal, because I do want to be around family, but that toxic stuff, I can't handle it. I can't.
I so feel you. I just want to jump in and just, because I know we use the word triggered a lot in our community, and I think it's overused. And I'm not saying anything about what you just said, Precious. I just want to break it down for everybody that is listening or that will view that the word trigger really means that this particular action or this particular person takes you to a space in your emotions or in your mind. It draws you back, right? And it just, you get into this mode of fight or flight, and being at a place of being so peaceful, you don't want to feel like you have to fight this person or you have to, get away from them because they will do what they have done to you in the past. And one of the things that my therapist taught me was that, we really interact with people just based on our experiences with them, and so you can really trigger a person just based on the experience that they had with you. And until they have new experiences with you, there's no way for you not to be a trigger to them or for them not to be a trigger to you. And so I wanted to pause right there and take that and break that down for you all, because what Precious is saying is like, I'm at this beautiful place like in my life, and I've worked so hard to get there. And every time that I come around this person or I'm in this environment, it draws me back, and that's not who I want to be. So
absolutely. Thanks, Ashley, for that.
You're welcome, girl.
I definitely agree. I think that it's possible. But just like Precious, I do believe that, it is more difficult when you have those family members that that's all that's the dynamic of the whole relationship in every way. And so all you can do is keep it at, hello and happy birthday, and for everyone's safety and sanity.
Yes.
If only someone that's, I don't know, probably licensed could probably really, if they, I don't know what the tools are. So I really don't know if I could say it is, possible in every case, but I do know it's possible.
Yes, for the safety of the people as you go to the next.
I know for me, I feel like I'm at a place now with my family, they just stop inviting me because I make them uncomfortable. They're like, she all healed over there, I don't want her around. I'm like, okay, don't invite me there.
Right, she coming over here talking that philosophy stuff, with that psychology stuff, y'all.
Definitely that one.
But it's
good though.
It's good though, because what I have learned is that they're listening, right? And it's resonating, and it will eventually begin to produce a them. And really, when you get to this place, you really understand. So you really really understand that your whole goal is to plant the seed anyway. But that's a different conversation.
Absolutely. Girl, you right in my lane, because that's exactly what I'm saying. Because a lot of people in my extended family, they see that there's a problem, and instead of saying, "Hey, cuz, hey sis, you're wrong," in their face, they're like, "Oh, you're doing such a great job," and they're behind their back, they're like, "Oh, she toxic, she doing the worst," So it's like in some arenas, people really like to see other people doing bad, So it won't bring a highlight on them like not doing their very best. So me personally, I like to see everybody win. So if I see you slacking, I'm gonna say, hey cuz, hey sis, level up. You need some help? I can help you, no problem. That's me. So people around me, we all have to win. We all winners. Because when you failing, I'm failing. We're failing together. I'm definitely that collectivistic type person. I don't see things from an individual perspective. I never do. So anywhere I go, I'm looking like, how can I be an asset to this community? How can I be an asset to this relationship? And if I can't, it's like, what am I doing here? You know what I mean? Okay, I'll plant a seed, but then I'll definitely back up because I'm not going to force healing on you. I'm not going to force whatever I see in your future on you until you see it and you're ready to go get it. I'm going to let you be, sis, or bruh. I'm going to let you do your thing. But know that when you're ready, I'm going to be here. And that's just it. No strings attached. You don't owe me nothing. I don't owe you nothing. Like, I'm here. That's just me.
And she means that 100%. She is here because as long as I have known Ish, that has always been her. That's been her motto. She will definitely pull you up if you're ready, but you gotta be ready because she gonna pull you up. All right. And so with that, we have one last question that we want to ask. And so to all of my sisters, I would say we've been given some very profound information to a lot of our listeners on today. And we just want to thank you all for, hanging in with us. We hope you are getting some very good information. We want to remind you all that we do have social media and you all can follow us on our social media platform. It is definitely First World Generational Changers on all the platforms. And so our last question for tonight is, what advice would you give a first generationer that feels stuck yet out of place in a toxic family? Take it away, ladies.
I would definitely say, do not feel apprehensive about seeking the help that you need, from whether it's from a licensed therapist to a mentor to a family member that you trust and that's knowledgeable. You see how they live their life, not somebody that's adding to the toxicity, like Aisha was saying, seeing these behaviors happening and just not being bold enough to kindly approach family members and address them with love and talk about the things that are toxic within the behaviors. I definitely feel that it helps you to not feel like you're alone and there's somebody that can understand and really speak to you either in a professional perspective to where they can, give you the tools that help. And then family wise, if it's a family member, they know you, they seen you grow up, they love you, they want to be there for you, so just definitely being brave enough to reach out and seek the help that will, help bring you out of that.
Absolutely. I would definitely say that you're not alone and your tribe is definitely waiting for you. This is one of the reasons why First Generation World Changers was developed, because a lot of us once were in a place where we felt stuck, yet we knew that we were out of place, or we knew that we were meant for something greater. And it was hard to find someone that actually could understand, and we understanding that one another, we definitely became family. So I just want to tell them that you're not stuck, and there's a whole tribe out there waiting just for you. So just brave forward, and you know what? Blaze your trail and do it unapologetically. If no one else follows you, do it. If no one else gives you permission, we give you permission today to go blaze your trail and be just as great as you envision, because your life, your future lies ahead.
Definitely look at who you surround yourself around outside of your family. Because, they will, that can definitely help. That tribe, like we have here with First Gen, definitely surround yourself with those people that will help you and help lead you and guide you and walk with you. And even if there are family members that are like that as well, find those people, find the help you need, like Precious said, and And you'll see when everyone else is doing well, you naturally tend to do well as well. When everyone is in that good space, the positive vibes are flowing, that impacts you as well. And so that way that'll help you to get out of that place.
Absolutely. And so to top off what all of my sisters have said to you on tonight, I will definitely say to believe that things can change for you. I would say that you have to believe that things will get better and tap into that belief every day. And I would definitely follow up and say, and then you fight for yourself. And your fight is not necessarily physical, right? Your fight is more so mental now. And when I say physical, I just mean like you don't have to fight against your family, but you fight in terms of getting the proper people around you, getting the proper voices, hear the proper things, start to listen to some motivational speeches. I know that was one thing that really helped me get the courage to really launch out, because it will sometimes feel like you are alone. It will sometimes feel lonely. But as a trailblazer and as somebody who's breaking off, you got to think about all the other people that came before you, but all the other people that are coming after you, right? And so it takes you to get that courage to just take the first step. And so don't think so hard about it, because we start to think about how far we may have to go or the type of work that we may have to do, and it intimidates us and it gets us out of even doing it. But all you got to do is take the first step. All you got to do is make the first move. All you got to do is just do one thing. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I learned the power of is the power of compounding, which means that when you do a thing over and over and over again, what it begins to do is it begins to build and it begins to become greater than you thought it would be, with just one thing that you started. And so I want to tell you to start your one thing. That is what I want to say to you. Believe that your life will get better. Start your one thing. Watch the power of compound make your life become more beautiful than you ever thought it could be.
And to expound on that compound, look for the book, The Compound Effect. Definitely will help you understand more about what she's talking about.
Absolutely. And my sister had mentioned podcasts and she forgot to mention hers. So I just want to tell you guys, all my first generationers out there who's experiencing anxiety, check out Miss Ashley Epiphany's podcast, Anxiety.
Yes.
It's on every platform, right, Piff?
Yes, girl.
On every platform.
It is on every platform. It is now called the Self-Love Journal Podcast. And so we're going to get into a lot of deep conversations, but it is on every platform. It is under Ashley Epiphany. Actually, if you just follow me on all the social media, Ashley Epiphany, you can tap the link in my bio and it'll take you directly to my podcast. But speaking of social media, I want to actually plug the First Generational World Changers social media and let you all know that we actually have Friday night check-ins at 7 p.m. on Clubhouse. We have a very, very, very uplifting Instagram page and Facebook page that we would love for you all to follow. And of course, we have this YouTube page where you all can get the different online workshops that we'll be uploading for you all. So with that being said, does anybody else have any comments that they want to leave for our viewers on today?
No, I just want to say this was definitely amazing. In the words of our Sister T era, you guys are amazing. And I just love the First Generation World Changers.
Yes, I want to add that this group is simply wonderful. This group is a sisterhood group that it really empowers you as a first generation world changer. And when you have things that you want to get off your chest, when you need advice, when you need resources, I mean, it's a wealth of knowledge that this group of ladies has. And I am definitely looking forward to onboarding and bringing new members in so we can all share this wealth together and grow together.
Yes.
I just want to say I'm grateful. I love you guys. And I look forward to continuing on with many more discussions like this, the check-ins, everything. I love it all. I'm grateful for you all. You all are amazing. And yeah, let's continue to have another amazing week.
Absolutely. Before we go, I'd like to do a quote. It says, "The ones who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones that do." So take that and hold on to that throughout the week.
Absolutely. I just want to thank you all for allowing me to be your host on tonight. I want to thank you all for allowing us to pour our information and our experiences into you all. We look forward to hearing how you all have changed, how you all have taken that first step. And we look forward to growing with you all as well. So we just thank you again for tuning in to our sisterhood channel, First Generational World Changers, how to deal with toxic family members. We hope you all have been blessed by the information that you have been given. We will see you all very soon.